I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, who, following the footsteps of Srila Haridas Thakur and showing us how to follow in the footsteps of Srila Haridas Thakur, came to our town or village, either himself or by his proxies, to give us the prime benediction of Lord Chaitanya, which is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu elevated Srila Haridas Thakur to the position of the nāma-acharya. Haridas Thakur was born before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was chanting the holy names, associating with Srila Advaita Acharya. Both of them were pining for the Lord to appear in the world, to spread the holy name, the principle that should always ask for help. Those who would serve Krishna by spreading the Sankirtan movement can call out to the Lord with sincerity and ask, please, empower me, please come and save the souls. So Haridas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, we're in that position of begging the Lord to please come to this world. And by the loud cries of Advaita Acharya, we know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. He'll also appear in our hearts and our lives if we sincerely beg the Lord for His mercy. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Ene chi ashaudi maya nashi baru lagi. Harinam ma mantra lao tumi magi. Magi means to beg. And a couple of years ago when we were in Govardhan Hill for our annual reading of the Srimad Bhāgavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, kṛṣṇasya Prabhu was going every day for parikram around Govardhan Hill. And one day, a child was following him, asking him to give some bhiksha. And although he asked, kṛṣṇasya kept walking and thought that he'll go away soon. And as he went from one shop to the next, the little boy followed him. And just past Uddhavakund, there's a long stretch, at least a few miles before you get to Sri Radhakund. And every time kṛṣṇasya would look back, he saw that the little boy was still following him, practically nipping at his heels, pulling on his kurta, all the way to Radhakund, miles and miles, asking, give me something. And finally, when he got there, something changed in his mind and he thought, okay, I'll give him something. But he looked and he only had 500 rupee note. But he'd already committed in his mind, and I'm going to give something. So once you make the move with your hand, you can't then say, oh, sorry. So he gave the boy 500 rupees, which is a sizable donation for a little boy begging on the marg. And the little boy went away carrying his sense of determination. And kṛṣṇasya went away thinking, I should be more like this when I chant the holy name of the Lord. We may beg and go from one township to the next, and then nothing. And then Krishna may flip you a big bill. Give him something. Whoops. That's a description of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes given by our acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. At least there's some story attributed that he had described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an emperor who is intoxicated. As we know from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes intoxicated by love for Krishna. A madness, kind of madness. In fact, in various circumstances throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita, for instance, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves Vrindavan and he faints in ecstasy, and the Pathan soldiers come and try to arrest his associates because they find them kneeling over the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they absurdly accuse them of stealing all his stuff, having given him datura, a kind of intoxicant that would make him pass out or die. And they say, in their interchange with them, that he's our leader, and they say, oh, you're rogues and rascals. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to external consciousness and he chants, Haribo! He explains to the Pathan soldiers, no, sometimes I have something like epilepsy, sometimes I faint. But the acharyas say this is no ordinary epilepsy. In fact, one devotee is recorded as saying, the Haridas Thakur, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his youth and he became, as Prabhupada writes, God intoxicated, and some people said he had some disorder of the prana. They call it wind disorder. And people were trying to cure him with Shiva ghee, rubbing on his head or tying his feet. Various cures. We saw that during the pandemic also. Everyone had something to offer. And Srivas Pandit said, I wish I had this same disease. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in a kind of madness. Now I forgot where I started. How did I get there? Huh? What? Of the child. What? Yeah. Thank you. So that begging for the holy name is what we're built for. If you've ever wondered, if you've ever looked at yourself in the mirror and noticed your ears, your eyes, shape of your head, your arms, your legs, did you ever do that? And think, well, what is this design? It's especially designed for prayer. The human body is built for prayer. And this is the most beneficial mudra, this one. And we only feel fully satisfied as humans when we pray to Krishna sincerely, to please engage me in your service. Otherwise, we're, to one degree or another, neurotic. Every human being has some neurosis. Sorry to say that in front of Vishnu Gadaprabhu, he's a licensed psychologist. Hope I'm not incorrect. At least it's Prabhupada's observation when he heard somebody in court who was asked to give expert witness about a case, and he said, as far as I'm concerned, he was asked to certify whether this perpetrator was mad or crazy, and he said, as far as I'm concerned, as a psychologist, everybody's crazy. So when we are able to pray to the Lord, then we feel satisfied. So in the nāma-tattva, or the truth of the holy name, because we find in the Bhāgavatam statements that bring our mind to full concentration in one place, like kaler doṣa-nidhe rājann asti mahān guṇaḥ, kīrtanād kṛṣṇasya mukta-saṅgaḥ paraṁ vrajet. Kali Yuga is a lost cause. It's a very difficult time. The people are lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Prayanal payusha shabya kalavas minyugejana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hupadruta. Sumanda. They're really bad. But there's one good quality in the age, mahān guṇaḥ. Good quality. One good quality is just by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can cross over the ocean of faults of the Kali Yuga. Kaler doṣa-nidhe rājann. Shukadeva saying to King Parikshit, Rājann, O king, kaler. In the age of Kali Yuga, kaler doṣa-nidhe. It's an ocean of faults. But there's one good quality, just one. Not two, one. Kīrtanād kṛṣṇasya, mukta-saṅgaḥ paraṁ vrajet. By chanting Hare Krishna, you can cross over this ocean. You can attain perfection in this lifetime. Srila Haridas Thakur was worshipped by many because it's rare when you can see somebody who's steady in devotional service. In fact, Prabhupada mentions it as a symptom of someone who's advanced, steadiness. And in the commentary to the famous verse that Srila Ishvara Puri gave to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just after he took initiation, Evambrata swapriya nāma-kirtya jatana rago dzurita chuta echer asatyato rautiti rauti gayati madhavan rittati lokavayaha. That when one devotes one's life to singing the names of the Lord here, there, and everywhere, not considering where one is or who's listening, then he says, Evambrata, when you have that vow, when you've taken to that way of life, Priyanama Kirtya, the name becomes very dear to you, or a specific name becomes dear to the devotee. And then Druta Chitta means gradually by chanting the name of the Lord out loud in a prayerful way, then the heart changes. And Druta means it's melted. Druta Chitta, the heart becomes a melted heart. So in the material world, people are known to be hard-hearted. But the holy name can melt the hearts of the sincere practitioner. In the purport to that verse, which continues by saying that such persons with melted heart then become noticeably agitated spiritually. There are symptoms that are listed in the Shastra about the ways in which there are bodily changes. Tears come to one's eyes. Krishna bolbe jabe pulakabe jorve anki bolitai. Bhaktivinoda Thakur puts it in a song, Radha Krishna Bol. He says, if you go on chanting Hare Krishna, then your hair will stand on end. You feel ecstasy, tears will come to your eyes by chanting Hare Krishna. But then the commentators on that verse say some people, some great Vaishnavas, they may feel the ecstasy, but they don't show it externally. And Madhvacharya says there's only two symptoms by which you can judge an advanced devotee. Only two, and he quotes a verse from the Shastra that says, only by steadiness and also by the merciful nature of that person's speech. They don't talk nonsense. They talk in ways that uplift everyone. They're called mukta-saṅgaḥ. And Haridas Thakur steadily, every day, chanted at least 3 lakhs of names. Means 64 times 3, right? So you finish 64 rounds, and then you can pull down one of those. I don't know if you ever used them before, but there's 16 and 4. We finish 16, we pull one down, and then we go for another 16. Haridas Thakur chanted 64, then he'd pull one of those down, and then he'd do another 64, then he'd do another 64. Sometimes people can do that, like on a Janmashtami or something, you plan ahead. Or you go to a japa retreat, maybe 64. I know people have chanted 108 rounds in a day. But he did it every day. So he was experiencing the nectar of Krishna's names. And there's a science behind it mentioned in the Srimad Bhāgavatam that, well, why Bhāgavatam? Why not the Shikshashtakam? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions the ways in which we're transformed by chanting the holy name, beginning with Chaitodarpanam Arjanam. And he talks about how the Lord is personally present, all his energies, Nija Sarva Shaktis. And Haridas Thakur, being famous for chanting Hare Krishna, once was at a gathering. And during the gathering, there was Govardhan and the Majumdars. Who's the other Majumdar? Hiranya. Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdar. They were father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. And there was a discussion going on, spontaneous discussion going on about the process of self-realization. And they had a family priest who was a Brahmana, but he was a smarta Brahmana. Sometimes people become proud of their position. Prahlad Maharaj says, Viprad Vishad Gunayatara Ravindana Bapada Ravinda Vimukashvapashamba Vrishtam Manyetararpicha Mano Vachnanti Harta Pranam Punati Sakulam Nataburi Manaha. If somebody's a Brahmana by birth and they don't have firm faith in Krishna and his holy name, so they can't even purify themselves, what's the use of being a Brahmana, even if you have all the qualities that are mentioned in these smarta books called the Sanat Sujata? But you don't have faith in Krishna and his holy name. Prahlad says, what's the use of that kind of a Brahmin? He said, even a Shwapacha, a person whose family, when they have a holiday, they cook a dog. That's the family somebody's from. They go home for Thanksgiving and they're having dog. Just saying, it's in the Shastra. Don't kill the messenger. Shwapacha means a dog cooker. Prahlad Maharaj says, so if a person comes from that family, and you compare it to a Brahmin who thinks, well, I know everything. And we've met people like that. We met a man going door to door, and he came out in his bathrobe. It was 11:30 a.m. We showed him a Bhagavad Gita, and he goes, I know everything. So we called all the devotees and said, ask him, he knows everything. He said, no, not like that. So Prahlad Maharaj says, but if a person has faith in Krishna, and by extension his holy names, he can not only purify himself, but he can purify his whole family, his whole dynasty, because of the power of the holy name and one's faith in it. This is Bhagavat philosophy. We're not so dependent on the external designations. And from Srimad Bhāgavatam, an oft-quoted verse by our acharyas, 2 verses together from Devahuti, as she's appreciating the teachings of Kapila-dev, and she exhorts the glories of hearing and chanting the holy names. nāma-tattva shravanād kīrtanād, yat pravanād, yat smaranat pravadat api kuchit, swadyo pisadya savanaya kalpate kunak mudastad bhagavanu darshanat. She verse says, that if somebody's engaged in the process of hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord, like all of you are doing right now, this person is greatly exalted. Yat nāma-tattva shravanād kīrtanād, yat pravanād, yat smaranat api kachit, swadyo pisadya savanaya kalpate. They're better than a person is established in so-called Brahmanism, and then he says, what to speak of somebody who's seeing the Lord face to face? And then she exclaims, aho! Somebody could say that. It's an ecstatic exclamation, just like Ray. This is such a wonderful thing. Aho bata shva pachato gariyan ya jiva gre vartate nāma-tattva. Te pus tapaste juhuvusasna arya brahmanachur nama guṇante. Mark these two verses. They're very important because they speak of the glory of the person who's chanting the holy name. The second verse, she's saying how wonderful it is. Aho bata shva pacha. Again, the name, the dog cooker, because that's the lowest you can consider. Shvapacha. Aho bata shva pachato gariyan ya jiva agre. Agre, jihva means the tongue, and agre means the tip. So jiva agre vartate nāma-tattva. If a person is to be found as a gloss, that they have the holy name on their tongue, even a little bit means the tip of the tongue. They just, wait a minute, what'd you say? Like when we were walking in here, there was this little girl, she had a book in her hand. She was with her parents, and apparently she went by the Harinam, and somehow somebody sold her a book. And then she went into ecstasy. Did you see her? She was walking by everyone going, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. She couldn't stop saying Hare Krishna. And I thought of that verse. Devahuti is saying that person is to be considered beyond the varnashrama. They've graduated. Varnashrama is a probationary process. They've graduated. They're out of probation. They've transcended. They've gone beyond everything. And Prabhupada, in the purport, gives example of if you see your friend Dilip in the courtroom with a robe on, giving sentences, you know he went to law school, because you have to do that before you can become a judge. So if you can say, Hare Krishna, Ya jivagre vartate nāma-tattva. Te pus tapaste, you've already done all the austerities in your previous life. You've already been to every place of pilgrimage and bathed in every place that you could have. You've done all the rituals, mantras, mudras, tantras, everything finished. Because you can say Hare Krishna. What to speak of somebody who sincerely chants Hare Krishna? As we know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur continued the teachings in the Harinam Chintamani when he talked about the nāma-basa, which so many famous verses. And this was Haridas Thakur's point to the Godrumadars, Madrumadars, and to the Brahmana who is there who objected. Because Haridas Thakur says about liberation, the topic of the day, and it's not an issue. If somebody's chanting Hare Krishna, just the dim reflection of the holy name liberates the person. And this Brahmana was envious of Haridas Thakur. Why is he speaking up in this assembly? I should be talking. I have the pedigree to talk. Who is he? This is the smarta mentality. They think that they're entitled because they have some endowment somewhere, some way or another. There is no endowment except for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the age of Kali. And that comes from serving the devotees. And so Haridas Thakur quoted some verses from the Shastra indicating how the dim glimmer of the holy name purifies one. Rupa Goswami has memorialized these verses in his Namashtakam. Yet Brahma sakshat kṛṣṇasya vinashamayati vinana bhogai paiti nama spuranina tate prarabdha karmeti viroti vedaha. It's an important verse because he says that even the prarabdha, the current karma that we have, accumulation from many, many births, and then the filling in of all our desires from the last life in this life, it's solid, very difficult to overcome. He said that by meditating on Brahman, yet Brahma sakshat kṛṣṇasya, you still have to undergo all the karmas if you're a Brahmavadi. But then he says, if the name appears in your heart and mind, even the prarabdha karma is vanquished. And the entitled Brahmana then said, "This is nonsense. Who allowed this person to talk? He's a low-born person. He's not even from our group." Haridas Thakur was from the Muslim community. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, and Vaisesika gave him the first plate in the Shraddha ceremony in Navadvip, because from the Shraddha Patra, special offering plate, you're supposed to give it to the topmost person in the area who you can find. So many Brahmins were there, and he brought it to Haridas Thakur. Said, Vaisesika, he's a Mahavishnu. I think he knows what he's doing. Haridas Thakur, me? And Vaisesika said, you're the topmost. Because you're constantly chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. And the entitled Brahmin, he said, then, if you're lying and if you're wrong, which you are, may your nose fall off. Haridas Thakur said, I'm not wrong. This is the Shastra. Shruti smiti paranadi panchachaki bidimbina aikantiki hare bhaktir pattaya vikalpate. I'm lined up with the Shastra. It's what it says. It's in the Bhagavatam. And he said, besides, if I'm wrong, I'll cut off my own nose. And according to the story, the Majumdars were highly disturbed. They said, you're fired, to the Brahmana. They were so disturbed that he condescended to Haridas Thakur, as they were cultured Vaishnavas. They dismissed him. Nobody wants to see him anymore. And when he went away from the employ, a few days later he fell ill. Poetic justice. He got leprosy, or some necrotic disease where some entity is eating your flesh. And his nose, which was very beautiful, he prided himself in his nose. He'd look in the mirror, and his nose fell off. Haridas Thakur ki. What to take from this is not that we pray that people's noses fall off, but it's the nāma-tattva. At the end of his Sharanagati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes a song. And in it he tells how by chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body is going through so many changes that he doesn't know what's happening to him. He said, I can't understand anything. The name has captured me. He said, but then, he said the name, Nam Prabhu, is taking me by the hand. And he's led me back to the spiritual world, to Goloka Vrindavan, introduced me to my relationship with him there, eternally. Proof that just by chanting Hare Krishna, sometimes people say, whatever happened to just chant Hare Krishna? Well, nothing happened. You just didn't always chant Hare Krishna. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Vadane Harinam Korore, Grihe Tako Bani Tako, Sada Hari Balira. It doesn't matter if you live in the house or forest or in a van, but somewhere else. And then he says, yeah, but don't forget the second part, Sada Hari Balidako. If you're chanting the holy name, then Suke Duke Bulavnako Vadane Harinam Korore. You won't be subjected to the harsh reality of the material world, which is a result of forgetting Krishna. He'll always be with you, always carrying you. So, in one fell swoop, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the power of the holy name by elevating a person who was outcast in that present society. And that's outrageous, because most people, they're afraid to be associated with somebody who's an outcast because it might degrade their brand. So I don't want to take a photo with the guy because although I know he's a good devotee, but still, it might not be good for my brand. It's some political thing. But Lord Chaitanya was not interested in that nonsense. He was interested in distinguishing reality for illusion for the welfare of all. And he showed that if somebody from so-called lowest background, or in that context, it was the lowest type of background, untouchable. In fact, people at that time were so afraid that their external designation would be affected, that if somebody from a lower culture, as calculated by them, had sprinkled water from a vessel that they used in their home, then you were converted to another designation, and then you would be outcast. That's why Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, although they came from Saraswat Brahmin families, they were outcast in that society. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that if somebody's chanting Hare Krishna, the etiquette is, in your mind you should see that this person is uncommon amongst the millions and billions of people in the world, just by saying Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was categorical about that. In fact, there's a book that was written hundreds of years ago by Gunaraj Khan in a village which is now called Navadvip. It's written in a ragged style. It was supposed to be sonnets written with precision, but it wasn't written with precision. It was written irregularly. But because in the book it said, Nanda Nandana Krishna More Pranath. Nanda Maharaj, son of Nanda Maharaj is my life and soul. Mahaprabhu said, this is the best of all books. Everyone should read it. Not only that, everybody in the village where that book was published, they're the most dear to, even more, that dog over there, because he's from this village, where there's the statement in the book, Shri Krishna Vijay, Nanda Nandana Krishna More Pranath. That dog is dear to me, or any dog, because they're in the village where this book was written. Proximity to the holy name, proximity to the sentiment of pure devotion was the qualification Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, and the Shastra gives also. What to speak of, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, somebody who's seriously chanting, because he said there's two levels of this nāma-bhas, which are listed firstly in the Bhāgavatam in the section of Ajamil. Is everyone okay? Keep going, just a little bit more. It's a few thoughts. Then we can discuss and have bhajan. Sanketyam parihasam vaistobam helaram evava. Vaikuntha nāma-tattva. Isn't that a beautiful line? Vaikuntha nāma-tattva. Where's this name from? Oh, Vaikuntha. Asheshaga haram vidu. An intelligent, a learned person knows that if anybody chants Hare Krishna, and let's count the ways they might chant Hare Krishna. We can ask Ram Roy, because he's seen it all. He's been out there chanting Hare Krishna to everybody for the last 14 years without sleeping. He came here for a couple days off. He says, Sanketyam parihasam va. Sanketyam means that it's a designation. You call the shop you open, Hare Krishna. Go ahead. You want to say anything?
Jokingly, inadvertently, is that what you're thinking? Jokingly?
Oh, jokingly.
Inadvertently?
Yes. Exactly, and you've seen that. How many times a day? When people come by your Harinam party, do they do it jokingly?
Several times. Most of the time it's ignoring us.
Most of the time they ignore. That's the hardest, because when you try to, whatever you resist persists. And people try to ignore the holy name and then it just goes in deeper. And then there's people that joke around, they go, Hare Krishna. And people used to tell us all the time, hey, Hare Krishna, what happened to your hair? Very funny. And then there's musical entertainment. People at it. There was a guy, where were we? In Watford. We were doing Sankirtan in Watford, and there was a Bollywood singer. And he was belting out these Bollywood tunes, and then we came along, and all of a sudden he just started unabashedly singing Hare Krishna. A beautiful voice too, and it was going out to all the people in Watford, the Bollywood singer. So musical entertainment, parihasam va, sanketam parihasam, stobam helanamevava, neglectfully, derisively, etc. It says Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam, because it's the name from Vaikuntha. Ashe Shaga. It's like this morning's verse, remember? It says, do you remember? Smaranta smarayantascha mita oga haram harim. All these sinful reactions. Oga means a flow. It means like a river flowing full of sins. You get hit by that as soon as you step in the material world, and then you're smothered by it and you can't get out. But he said, Oga, Aga, Haram, Harim, they're all taken away by Krishna. And the same thing is in this verse, because it's the Vaikuntha name, Krishna saves the person who's chanting it neglectfully, as a joke, derisively, like you, Hare Krishnas, get out of here and go to hell. And Prabhupada used to say, they'd come by and they'd see us in some place in the public, and then they'd say something like that. And Prabhupada said, then they're chanting. And then when they used to steal books from us at the airport, it became a national sport, because they knew the devotees were asking donations for the books. They go, what do you got there? What do you got there? What do you got there? Thanks! And they'd take the book, and they were doing it over and over again. And then in 1976, our Sankirtan leaders told Prabhupada, but they're stealing books from us. Prabhupada said, lucky thief. And so, the science of chanting Hare Krishna, there's accidental chanting, and it's abhasa. And Nirupa Goswami says, Yada baso pyudyan kabalita bhavadvanta vibhavo drisham tatvandanam apidishiti bhakti pranayanim. And that is that even if you get the abhasa, the dim glimmer of the holy name, and you're completely ignorant, andana means you're blind. Tattva andana means you're blind to the truth. You have no idea what's what. But if you just get touched by the holy name by accident, he says that darkness is all swallowed up by the power of the effulgence of the holy name. And bhakti pranayanim, a person gets a sense for bhakti. In other words, there's something in their heart where they start to, just by hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, they get a feeling for bhakti. Like, what is that sound? It makes me want to join the Hare Krishna movement. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there's that level of nāma-bhasa, and then there's another level of nāma-bhasa that he says when the devotee is utterly sincere, albeit with no taste for chanting, but is chanting to the best of his or her ability. Then he said something very encouraging, and that is that devotee will definitely come to the perfect stage because of the sincere endeavor to chant Hare Krishna despite his or her ineptitude at doing it, because of the sincere endeavor of the devotee. It's in the Hari Nam Chintamani. So we celebrate Haridas Thakur. We've come to this place. We want to have just a little bhava from this place, right? Is that too much to ask? Can we get just one molecule of that sincere faith and desire in the chanting of Hare Krishna as the supreme process? It's all lined up. There's nothing else to do. It's vetted by the greatest devotee scholars, the best saints. And therefore, we pray to Haridas Thakur, please let us put all our investment in one thing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like that, no other mantra. Like Vishnu Gada, he only chants Hare Krishna. You can listen. He just chants Hare Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya because he knows. Nothing else needed. You don't need to add anything else. You just need to sing Hare Krishna. Hope I didn't put any constraints. He sings bhajans too, but just Hare Krishna. And Ram Roy, why is he sitting in one place on one little mat? Takes a little kitri, some mango pickle, a little glass of water, and a papadum. 14 years, 14 hours a day, sitting on a little mat, bringing people from all over the world, just chant Hare Krishna. Why is he doing that? Because he knows the science. That's all that's necessary, nothing else needed. Everything complete. Purnam, Om Purnam, Ada Purnamidam, Purnat Purnam Udachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vishishyate. If Haridas Thakur could give us just a little faith in the holy name, what our lives would be to just focus on one thing. Chant Hare Krishna and give it to other people as much as possible, because the more you give it out, the more it increases. And the last thing for now is that Sanatana Goswami glorified Haridas Thakur. You know Prabhupāda in Los Angeles? If you don't know him, you should fly out there and try to hang around him a little bit. He's been distributing books for 55 years. And he's simple, pure Vaishnav. Just goes out, distributes books, chant Hare Krishna, and all day long you just see him, whenever he's not doing that, he's taking a little kitri, some mango pickle and a papadum, that's it. Glass of water, and he reads Prabhupada's books all day. For years and years we gave awards for the topmost book distributor by points, and we stopped doing that a few years ago. We just give them to the teams. Somebody wrote in and said, Prabhupāda was #1 in America last year distributing books. Can he have an award? I said, we'll give him an award. We gave him the Haridas Thakur Lifetime Achievement Award. How can we justify such a thing? Sanatana Goswami said of Haridas Thakur, you not only chant Hare Krishna, your behavior is ideal, and you also preach to every living entity. These things together, he said, make you the topmost devotee. This is our line. And when we put emphasis on what's best, it's who's most capable, able, and willing to give mercy to others. Jive doi Krishna nam sarva dharmasar. Our movement is a movement of giving mercy. That's our core value. What's more, the holy name conquers all limitations imposed by the very weak modes of material nature compared to the holy name. They're crushed immediately, even by the unconscious chanting of the holy name. What to speak of somebody who leans into it, they become the greatest of all souls, capable of delivering others in all means and ways. Therefore, above all, we hold the holy name in the highest esteem. We consider it the only method for self-realization in the age of Kali, and an imperative that we distribute it everywhere. Otherwise, people are dying. This is the epidemic of spiritual poverty in the world. Let everybody be wealthy, like Haridas Thakur. We can pray for his benediction. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Srila Haridas Thakur, if you so desire, please make us spiritually wealthy by giving us faith in the holy name and the power to give it to others and the ability to chant without stoppage. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Anyone who agrees with this prayer, in whole or in part, say Hare Krishna. Go to Premanande Haribo. Now we have a goal, and that's to chant every bhajan in this book. So we just want to do one little bhajan here. I hope that's not a crime. Can we do one little bhajan? I just don't know which one. Radha Krishna bol bol, bolo re shobai. Of course, we can't do it ever again after we do this.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. In Boston, in the early days in Boston, the devotees there used to do a radio show. And during the radio show, the devotees would read the Krishna book in a dramatic reading, different devotees doing different parts. So they did the story of Krishna Kaliya, Krishna subduing Kaliya. And for this time, they recorded the radio show and brought it to Srila Prabhupada in New York. So they were playing the show, and it got to the point where Mother Yashoda sees Lord Krishna get taken by Kaliya and brought down under the water. You know that part. And what does Mother Yashoda say at that time? What does she say?
Krishna.
What was that?
Krishna.
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada said, stop the tape. Play that back. Let's hear it again.
Krishna.
One more time. Yeah. He said, that's how you have to cry for Krishna, like that. One more time. Krishna! Again. Krishna! Haribol. Sometimes, does it ever happen when you're chanting japa? Some days it's like really good, and some days it's like really hard. Does that happen to you? It's not just me? Okay, good. I'm glad. And sometimes you find out that, you check things and you think, well, am I doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing? Am I trying to hear, and I'm trying to sit and trying to be in a careful place and everything, and no matter what you do, it still doesn't work? Does that happen? Okay. Not just me, all right. And then, so there's another story of Srila Prabhupada was going on a morning walk with a devotee named Shivananda in Germany. You might know this one. So Shivananda, it's like 1969, the first time Srila Prabhupada went to Germany. And Shivananda was exhausted, even though it's the morning walk. He had been doing a lot of service. So they're walking through a park, and there was a park bench there. So Srila Prabhupada takes a look at Shivananda, and he sees he's tired, and he says, would you like to sit down for a minute? And Shivananda, of course, says, yes. So they're both sitting on the bench, and guess how Shivananda's sitting? And guess how Srila Prabhupada's sitting? Yeah. And then Shivananda looks at Srila Prabhupada and says, oh. And he sits up very straight. He says, and they're chanting japa. And then, he gets energy, and they're all chanting, and this is very nice. And so that day, later he went back to the temple, and some devotees from Great Britain came to visit. And he told them about the incident. So the next day they went on the morning walk, and they stopped at the same park bench. There was actually several park benches. And Srila Prabhupada said, let's sit down. And he sat down, and then all the other devotees sat down on the park benches. And how do you think they sat? How's that? Yes. And Prabhupada looked at them and he laughed. This is parampara. That's right. That's right. So anyway, so that's one thing, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's how many yoga postures are there in the Bhagavad Gita? Was that? You sure? Is that? How many? Yeah. So sitting with back, neck, head erect in a straight line, right? Okay. That's one. There's actually another one if you get into it. Manbana bhavan magbhaktyo madhyaji ma'am namaskuru. That's a yoga posture. But anyway, one yoga posture in the Bhagavad Gita. And so, I try to check that with me. And sometimes it really is really effective. You sit up straight, like you watch Vaisesika Prabhu in the morning. And he's sitting very straight. And that if you do that, sometimes, it gives you energy. It gives you energy, good focus. But sometimes, no matter what you do, it didn't seem like it working. So then I realized one time, what do you need to do? You gotta chant just like Krishna. It's not mechanical. You can sit up straight, you can do everything, but you gotta give that extra little thing to ask for Krishna's mercy. Ask for Krishna's mercy while you're chanting. First person, second person, third person. You know this when you learn languages. Third person is somebody else. What is the Hare Krishna mantra? What person is the Hare Krishna mantra? First, second, or third? Second person, right. Second person. So Srila Prabhupada says when you chant, try to focus and try to feel Krishna's presence. How do you do that? I have no idea. But it helps if you think, this is me I'm actually asking Krishna, please let me serve you. I mean, personally, yes, to you directly, right? You follow? Directly. Second person, not third person. Third person means somebody else. First person means me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarusha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnave namo namah Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Distribute all your books and then you can come home. Haribol.